recently made a major update to the level selection for my game Chicken Chasers, and I want to tell you all about it. Chicken Chasers is a casual action rage game where the pogo stick riding protagonist is dropped into various levels with different environments and challenges, with the task of collecting all the coins strapped to the backs of chickens. The core gameplay happens in the short bursts of being in a level. So up until now, my primary focus has been designing the levels, both mechanically and stylistically. Getting between the levels was just a user interface button that you click with your mouse. And that's not to say that the level selection was an afterthought. I did iterate on multiple designs for the level selection. First having cute, stylized, but flat images that represent what the levels hold, and then transitioning to a 3D animated clickable chicken that wears an outfit representing their level. For me, that was more than enough, considering how core the levels are to experiencing the gameplay. The 3D chickens for level selection felt like a huge step up from the static images, but they created a new challenge that I was avoiding thinking about for months. Controller support. I avoided working on this, but was chewing on the problem often in my idle moments.
How can the controller select between the chickens? How do I communicate what's happening to the player? Why was Neelix given such a high ranking on Voyager?
These are the questions that kept me up at night. I ignored addressing the issue and progressed in other aspects of my game, until one day a catalyst occurred. I was playing Katamari Damacy on stream and remarked that I hated that the main menu was in 3D space. I thought it was bad because a player who might be in a hurry to leave the game would have to first find the save and quit object in the world, and in general would have a hard time knowing where to go and how to do crucial tasks. The main menu doesn't seem like a good place for uncertainty. A couple days later, the realization hit me like a ton of bricks. Katamari Damacy is like that because it works well with a controller. Fast forward to the following Sunday when I do my experimental Sunday Funday streams. I had the task try a movement-based level selection in my backlog and decided I would spend the stream trying it out, with the expectation that I might be too hard or it might be too much, but was definitely worth trying. I started with the idea that the character would walk around with their pogo stick on their back until they got into a level. I was concerned that the pogo riding mechanic was too hard to navigate with precision in, especially since the controls aren't taught until the player starts the first level. I spent a couple hours attempting to add animations to the character so they could walk, run, idle, basically all the typical movements a character would have that I never had to bother with for this game since our protagonist was glued to a pogo stick. I say attempting because I struggled with this immensely and ultimately gave up. I decided to start out with the players still using their in-level movement mechanics and animations, and come back to the idea of them walking later. As a temporary fix, I added a check, so the first time you press play, you go directly into the tutorial level, and only after that first time pressing play brings you to the level selection world. That way new players have a chance to learn the controls before being required to use them. During this stream, I also made a basic 3D environment and the logic needed to travel into different levels by going into designated zones. I wrapped up the stream with the level looking like crap and feeling like I just might have to switch back to a button-based level selection screen. I went back and forth on this idea, thinking, it's just level selection. Why does it need to be this much effort? At the same time, the idea of having a world for level selection gave me goosebumps. I thought back to one of my absolute favorite games, Mario 64 and how the castle with its magical paintings was really just the same thing. A level selection world that facilitates bringing you to the different levels where the real gameplay happens. But as a player, I never thought of it that way. The castle was real. It was a place I loved running around, exploring, and practicing tricks. It told the story that brought together the obscure level locations. It served as a home to rest in between levels.
I'm tired.
It made the game feel complete and immersive. I wanted that for my game. This realization got me back to the drawing board. I had a few different ideas for how to make more of a world for the level selection instead of just boxes and teleporters, but I still wanted to be smart with my time. So I decided to start with the simplest idea first and iterate from there. I made islands. You start on a center island, and each level is a spoke off of the center with a bridge connecting them. I wanted to do islands because I didn't want to make the player travel far to get to the level select zone, but I also wanted to make a clear division between those zones. I had also recently made the levels themselves kind of like islands as a way to create a natural boundary, so I thought this had good synergy. While making the islands, I also made something else that was a total game changer. I didn't want to limit the character's jump height in the level selection world by boxing them in with a bunch of boundary colliders, so there was a really good chance the player was going to pogo off the side and into the abyss. I added a detector about 20 meters below the islands, so if the player does fall off, the scene will restart and drop them back into the center island. This instantly became my favorite metagame, endlessly jumping into the abyss. Maybe it's just me, but don't you often get the urge to jump to your death in Minecraft? Overall, I think the level selection world design turned out really fun and satisfies the feeling of the levels being part of a bigger whole. I also think having the player ride the pogo between the levels is actually a really great thing, because it allows them to get comfortable with the controls and experience them in that home or restful place between levels. I do have a leaderboard in the game for people that want to rush playing the levels and be competitive about it, but I think having the level selection world be an objectiveless and timeless space allows even the most competitive among us a chance to enjoy the game how I enjoy it, which is casually. I have gotten a lot of positive feedback from playtesters since introducing the level selection world just last week.
Ooh. Oh. What is this? Phase 1 tutorial. You made a world.
Looking back now, I can't imagine the game without it. I'm still working on the level selection world, continuing to add visual polish, make the rest of the islands, explore more metagame ideas, and add a few secrets to find. But maybe I can show that off in a future video. Thank you for watching this far. I currently have Chicken Chasers on Steam in an open playtest, which means if you click the Request Access button on the store page, you will instantly have it added to your Steam library. It's incomplete, but still very fun. I am aiming to post build updates about once a week, and I stream development on it every weekend. Any feedback you have is greatly appreciated.